starting the video on song 925 on the Spotify background music playlist because we have 9.25 units risked on this fine Friday night. If you're watching live, this is the place to be. If you're not watching live, hit the notification bell after you subscribe, which you're going to do, Mike the Mush, you know how it is. But you got to join live to get the chat going back and forth, and we got bets that you got to get in ASAP. Basketball has gone wild. These NBA playoffs are different than we expected in the beginning. If you go back to our previous NBA bets video, some of those bets have already missed. We had Bucks to sweep. We didn't know Middleton would get hurt. We didn't know that game would go the way it did. And now the Suns are in trouble too with the Booker injury. So we'll get to that as we navigate towards these new series, what we've learned, what we know, the Jazz stink, whatever. Jalen Brunson's the best player in the league, I guess. I'm not sure. But let's break it down game by game, see what we can get to for tonight's bets and how we're feeling about these series moving on. If you're not catching me here, by the way, at Mike Mush Sports on Twitter and Instagram, I'm always posting more bets there, more stuff, more analysis, more panicking during the games if it's not going our way, because sometimes you go up 20, then down 20, then back up 20. By the way, last night, we only bet we lost. We had 5 units on the line, hit 3 out of 4 bets, but the only one we lost was a parlay where I needed Ja to go over 22.5. Didn't do it. Had that with Cats under, Anthony Edwards over, and Beverly to get a steal. That would have been nice odds, but didn't hit. We did hit a couple. We had a parlay. If you're following, again, you would have seen this on the Twitter, and you should tail it because we're up 47.1 units on the year so far. Pretty good. But last night we hit Warriors money line big for 2 units. Had Rangers and Mariners over 8. Getting into baseball stuff. Fantasy baseball video coming soon. But that one hit. And then we had FanDuel made a little boost. Warriors money line, Clay to hit 2 threes, Steph to hit 2 threes, Poole to hit 2 threes. Got that at plus 175. Hit that for a unit. So we had a nice little day. Brought it up a touch. In any case, on to tonight. Start with the Heat-Hawks series. I mean, this one I don't have as many feelings about as the other two because the lineups are mostly the same. Trae Young has struggled mightily. Let's look back at Game 1 and Game 2 here. I just don't feel good about this series at all. The easy thing to do is take the Heat, but I think everyone is on the Heat. I mean, they're minus 1.5 on the road in a Game 3 where a young team who has already won at home is going back to a crowd that's going to be hot for them. So this isn't really where I want to take the Heat traditionally, but they have looked so much better. Much, much better. But they did only win this game by 10, and it felt like they dominated. Trae Young 2 for 10 from 3. Trae Young in the second one 0 for 7 from 3. He just hasn't shot the ball well at all, but these guys generally figure it out, and going home for Game 3 is a spot where they probably are going to figure it out. I don't think you're going to get Jimmy Butler to do what he did the other night. I mean, how many threes did he hit in that game when he dropped 45? 4? It's not that many, but he shot really well on jumpers, and I don't think you're going to get that all the time. So I like the Heat a lot. I'm still not necessarily sold on their offense. Never got anything from Oladipo, which is a bummer. They shoot the 3 really, really well, but when that isn't going, which is very rare, they don't have a lot of like sustained half-court stuff that they can get down low, and I feel like PJ Tucker's going to go cold eventually. So this is more just a gut reaction of like, I think the Heat will probably take this series in 5. I don't know what the odds are on that. Could probably look. Don't know if they have exact series, but Heat to win the series are minus 1,600. That's a little crazy. Truth is, if you were going to take the Heat to win in 5, you might as well just take Atlanta on the money line here as an underdog, because this is the spot where it's probably going to happen, I would think. I do want to stay away from this, though, because both teams are so three-point heavy that if one of them hits and the other doesn't, it's a pretty big deal. And for how poorly Trae Young played, and they still competed, at least in this game, and that was the one where Butler did drop 45. I won't be shocked at all if they win a game. But the Heat are way better, so I'm just kind of staying away from that one for the most part. Don't think I have any bets in here yet. 9.25 units. And not much so far. I think it's generally worth making a small play on the Heat, I guess. But I don't like giving points. I would have thought they would maybe be 1-2 point underdogs in this spot. So I think I'm just going to stay away from that one. Bucks Bulls. This one, what do you do with the Chris Middleton injury, right? And we took the Bucks to sweep. That didn't hit. So I was heavy on the Bulls, but when you remove Chris Middleton, a wing player who's pretty necessary for them to both score the basketball and help shut down, not really that they're going to shut down LaVine and DeRozan, but you got to have bodies out there. And when you go down the Bucks depth chart, it does get a little ugly. You got to figure who's going to come into this game, right? Who's going to play major minutes for the rest of this series, not only just this game. And it looks like it's going to be, let's see. I mean, Grayson Allen, what has his game log been like? I do like him. Not the same kind of guy. Connaughton will play. Grayson Allen will play. They'll probably replace the entirety of the minutes. Now, the other thing you can do, which I do like, you could just go bigger. You could play Lopez and Portis always at one time. Not together, but have one of them always be on the court when you want to go big. And you could even put Ibaka in for some minutes, slide Portis over to the 4. You could play Giannis at the 3 if you had to. I mean, that's not generally what they do, but he plays point guard sometimes offensively for them anyway. So you could go very big and just force the game into kind of a different direction, which is why I'm feeling like you can do enough here. I don't think their depth is that bad. People are kind of panicking here. You're going to see some Wes Matthews, fine, but he can hit a 3 here and there. I mean, if he needs to play 10 minutes, 15 minutes, that's fine. And you could get Nwora in there for a little bit too. So I think you might just see more of the bigs. I don't think you're going to have to go super far down this depth chart. You could put Javon Carter in for a little while, play some defense. I think there is depth role players here. You just got to replace the scoring, which is tough to do. But you know what? I mean, Giannis is just going to do that, right? I think this is the switch being turned on. He was already playing great, but this is the moment where Giannis has to go, all right, everything's on me, and this could be a 50 burger from him, right? We saw it at some point when he came back from the injury last year in the playoffs. All of a sudden, it was just, he was a different guy. He was a different animal, refused to be stopped. I haven't seen that in games 1 and 2 necessarily. He's been awesome, but I think there's another gear that he has that he might need to click into sooner than we expected. Now, I don't know if that's good for their long-term promise of winning the NBA Finals, because you're going to put some more wear and tear on Giannis having to do it for 4 quarters at a time, whereas before he could kind of take his foot off the gas, let Middleton drive the car for a little while. That's not going to happen anymore. So I don't think it necessarily makes them that much worse, and I'm taking the Bucks tonight to win the game in a statement game from Giannis. Now, I do think the Bulls will battle. This won't be super comfortable, but I like the price that we're getting because I'm expecting so much Giannis action, and we're going to put some Giannis props in at the end, so take a look at that. There is a boost on here. I'm not sure if it shows on here right now. It doesn't. But in New York, anyway, they gave a boost for Giannis to score 30 and to get at least 10 rebounds, and I'm making a heavy look at that one. I really like the bounce back here. And we'll talk about another one when we get to the next game, but this feels like a team that has done it before. They have owned the Bulls. I think they've won 17 out of their last 18 against the Bulls, something totally ridiculous like that. And this is going to be a hot crowd, no doubt about it, but the Bucks have been battle-tested and through this before, and I don't think it affects Giannis. I think I'm waiting for a game where Vucevic doesn't dominate the way that he has. He's been playing great, don't get me wrong. And he'll probably continue to play great, especially if you have to have Giannis guard the perimeter, which you might have to do, especially now with Middleton out. But he's not gonna play this well the whole series, is he? That's kind of a fate of him a little bit. Now Caruso coming back has changed the way this team looks, right? A lot of these Bucks wins that they rolled over the Bulls this year were without Caruso, and if they had Lonzo, I might be singing a different tune here because they could shut down the entire perimeter, let Giannis get his 50 and 15, and kind of win the game anyway. And maybe that will be their game plan. But I'm really feeling a big night from Giannis, so I'm liking Bucks money line, and I'm putting 2 units on that actually, and I'm feeling good about it. A lot of people will probably be on the Bulls tonight at this number. But I think if nothing else, for the one game, it doesn't mean that we're getting less offense from the Bucks. It just means that we're getting more Giannis making up for the Middleton stuff. And I think that's, in some ways, scarier. So a little regression from the Bulls, a little aggression from Giannis. Nice. Good pun. We're all over it. And we like Bucks money line with a couple props that we'll get to at the end. Phoenix and the Pelicans. This one hurts more. I mean, Booker going out is he's their best player, but the combo of Booker and Paul and Ayton down low is what makes them really hard to guard, right? Because then they have role players around it, but you don't know where the attack is going to come from, and if you commit too hard to either guard, Ayton will eat you up. Now, Pelicans have dominated the glass in this series, but honestly, I don't think that is indicative of how it should go. I think the Suns are pretty tough and big, and guys like Crowder and Bridges should take this pretty personally. They should. I like the Suns' depth a lot. I have all year. I mean, I've been on the Suns to win the championship. I've been on the Suns to go to the finals. So if you've been on the channel, subscribe, by the way, follow the stuff, yada, yada. You know how much I love the Suns. And I really think that this is a spot where their depth can show, hey, we're here. We've been here the whole time. And by the way, we've gotten through stretches without Chris Paul. We've gotten through stretches without Devin Booker. And both times, we looked pretty damn good. So if anyone could make it up, I love the depth of this team. And now is time to put up or shut up, right? And you're getting them at minus 142 to win a playoff game against a lower seed. Pelicans are good. I think the Pelicans are going to score. I definitely do. But I feel like this is a Monty Williams angry, Chris Paul, command the ball. Who's going to defend him? Yeah, they're a little frisky, but is Alvarado going to shut down Chris Paul? I just don't think so. So I really am feeling the Suns here. I think you're going to get more Bridges. I think you're going to get more Cam Johnson, who when he gets hot, you got to really look out. You're going to get Crowder playing. He doesn't impact the game offensively, but he's going to put in some defensive minutes big time, which he already has. And then I think you play McGee a little more too, if you need to, because I think you need to use Ayton more when he's on the court. This offense is going to have to spread out. You got to replace 25 points that you're getting from Devin Booker. How are you going to do that? You're going to ask Chris Paul to do more, but he's going to be doing more both shooting and facilitating. You're going to need Campaign to fill that two-guard role. You're going to need Chris Paul and Campaign to play together, and you're going to need them to be able to succeed by spreading the court, doing two different offenses, basically half and half, and having Ayton patrol the middle and participate in both of them. So he's going to have to be a big spot. But I've been singing the praises of Mikal Bridges and Cam Johnson all year, so if it's time for them to put up more usage, you might get some Shamet minutes, but the usage isn't going to go to Shamet. It's going to go to Bridges and Johnson and Campaign and Ayton. Probably split 25% between all those guys, maybe 20% and an extra 10 tacked onto Chris Paul or whatever it turns out to be. And that's how they get through it, right? So I don't think it's anyone out of the rotation that they need to rely on more often. I don't think it's anyone that's not used to having a bigger workload than sometimes they generally deserve when fully healthy. And I think this is a team that is equipped to use their depth as a weapon and sometimes doesn't get to because they're so good. So this is a spot where I really like the Suns as a bounce back. Plus, same thing with the Bucks, and I forgot to mention, and I kind of think this is true for the Heat too. So if you want to somehow string together a parlay with the three of them, which I may do, this is why. I think focused teams who have been through the battles before going on the road. Now, the game 3 thing is tough because you have to deal with hostile crowds. I grant that. But going on the road, especially for the Bucks and the Suns, not as much the Heat, when you have adversity, you can rally around each other on the road, I think, emotionally a little better than you can at home because you have no distractions. You're all together. You're all laser focused on making up the deficiency that you're having to deal with, either Middleton or Booker. You're rallied. You have to be rallied because you're together the whole time. You're on the road trip together. And you're going into battle in this place where nobody wants you to win. You have an extra chip on your shoulder. and you already had one because of the injury. And that's a dangerous spot to get some teams. So I like bounce back moments if the teams have proven to me that they are capable of making up for that deficiency. Now, if it was Giannis out, the Bucks have never proved to me that they can do anything without Giannis. So I'm not going to do that. But for Middleton, I will. And for the Suns, again, they have proved for sure that with one of the guards, they can still win basketball games. It's not a long-term prognosis. I think Game 4 might be a little tougher after that wears off a little bit. But I do think the Suns tonight is a pretty good play, and Bridges and Johnson props getting increased usage are pretty nice also. So we'll go through those picks when we get to the end of the video. I do want to go through the other series as well. And tomorrow we should have 4 games. And then which series are we missing here? Nets and Celtics do play tomorrow, and then Sunday, the only one we're missing is Warriors Nuggets. That series is over, by the way, so expect to play on Sunday on the Warriors. I don't know what it'll be, but we don't really need to talk about this. Jokic is doing everything. They're great, looking great. He's playing awesome, but his team is bad, and we knew his team was bad, and we knew that they were without 2 of their big guns, and we thought they might get them back. They didn't. I had the Warriors to win the series. We're looking good. I like the sweep play. I like this -4. They should dominate this series. They have broken the Nuggets, the Jordan Poole thing, the 3 guards. Series is over, so we don't need to spend a lot of time on that. Let's go through tomorrow's games. Sixers, Raptors. Again, I'm not going to have official plays for this because we're not quite there yet, but at Mike Mush Sports on Twitter and Instagram, you'll see them by tomorrow, if not tonight. I don't know about this series. I mean, the Sixers look better. I'm anticipating that the Raptors aren't going to roll over. I've stayed away from this series for the most part. I did take Sixers when Scotty Barnes got hurt because I don't like that, but who knows what his status is. Fred VanVleet hasn't looked good, and sometimes small scoring guards don't look good, but he's had big playoff moments already, so I think he's going to have a pretty good game. And Harden hasn't done a whole lot, but Maxey has looked really good, so starting to look towards the next series for the Sixers. This was really an evaluation series, and I don't want to make a huge play on this, but I feel like the Raptors are too good to roll over. So if Scotty Barnes seems healthy, I think they could steal a game here, and getting them at +3 I kind of like because I could see that being a really close game. The Embiid motivation after losing that series on the bounce shot however many years ago was brutal, and I think he always has a chip on his shoulder going into Toronto because of that. But I expect Nick Nurse to do better, and this team is deserving of not getting swept, I think. So maybe a Raptors play, but not feeling good about that series in general. Sixers should move on. I mean, they're not going to lose 4 straight, and we'll see what happens to them against a more focused team. I was disappointed in the Raptors. I thought they would do better. I really think the Scotty Barnes injury after Game 1 really screwed them up, and if they could have won Game 2, it would have looked completely different going into Game 3, obviously. So just a weird series. Mavs Jazz. I mean, what's wrong with the Jazz? We have the Jazz to win the series, so I'm probably at this point just gonna stay away. I might start hedging and just betting the Mavs. It's hard to believe that the Jazz are still a 5-point favorite here. I don't know if they have odds out for this. I don't. But by tomorrow they might. And man, I just they have the other series? Let's see. There we go. Mavs are -235 to win the series, and yet the Jazz are -5 to win tomorrow. It seems weird. Luka's not going to play. I'm just going to stay away from this game probably. I mean, there's a chance I take some props that I haven't really looked into yet because we don't know the lines, but I need the Jazz to win, so I'm kind of handcuffed. I wouldn't recommend betting on the Jazz right now. They look like a broken team. Their coach is going to be gone if they lose this series, and even if they don't, if they get rocked in the next series, you're probably just going to have to get rid of them, right? So I don't know what they do. This team seems like in every podcast I listen to and every media headline seems like we're already putting the Jazz in the offseason and trying to figure out what to do with Gobert and Donovan Mitchell and how you rebuild this team. And, you know, they're starting to remind me a little bit about those Hawks teams that had Joe Johnson and Josh Smith and, you know, the Jeff Teagues of the world. And at some point, they were just great in the regular season and never, ever, ever, ever competed in the playoffs when it came to real good competition. And it's starting to feel like the Jazz were like that. I mean, what's weird is they rebuilt themselves. They were supposed to be a defensive team, and yet they're horrible on defense. And I think part of that is the coaching philosophy changed. Some of the players got a little older and, frankly, started giving less effort. Joe Ingles' injury hurt them a lot, which no one's talking about, but it's true. And you do have Clarkson off the bench that's just not a defensive player. And I think the Gobert thing, after getting screwed in the playoffs media-wise, because he takes more heat than is deserved. And here's why. I mean, they literally just funnel everything towards him and expect him to just protect the rim on every single play, which he does a lot of. The advanced stats really like Rudy Gobert a lot of the time. And whether he kills you offensively or not, I mean, that doesn't account for the great screens he sets. He creates a lot of space down there. He's a good rebounder. I think he gets a lot of heat. He's not supposed to be a superstar. He's just a really good big man that can play for you as a defensive player of the year candidate, can clean glass and set screens. I don't see anything wrong with that. But what the Mavs are doing is just going really small and showing that we can kind of still get to the rim anyway every single play. So even if he's doing a great job down there, it's too much volume. We're going to wear him out, and then we're going to spread you out. So if we can get to the rim, we're going to have shooters out here that we can just kick it to, because he has to stay back there because you are not defending on the perimeter. So not like you want Gobert around the perimeter anyway, but they're just kind of flawed in their philosophy and roster construction at this point, because it used to make sense when you would defend around the perimeter and have Gobert in the middle defending. Now, if you're just funneling everything there, you're kind of wasting this asset, because your defense is never really going to be good unless you decide to play some perimeter D to begin with. So it's tough. Like, what do? Do you just give in and go small and take Gobert off the court sometimes and just try to match the Mavs and outscore them that way? But that's silly, because you have a defensive player of the year candidate. So if defense is your problem, I don't think taking him away is going to make it any better. The other option is Donovan Mitchell just defends better against Brunson. I mean, just do that. Just be better, because you're capable of doing this. It's like when Dwayne Wade bought that team, there were so many comparisons, myself included. And I still think he has that in him, but guess what? Dwayne Wade was always defending well in the playoffs until late in his career against real players. And it shouldn't have to be Mike Conley trying to defend this guy. I mean, Brunson is smaller than Mitchell. He's less physical, and he's crafty. He can get to the rim, but he's not as fast. You should be able to do something. You shouldn't be getting shredded like this, because he's scoring on the interior, because Gobert has to do so much and be in 10 different places at a time. Just don't let him get to the interior. So, I mean, that's, again, it's just more large commentary on the Jazz than anything, because the Mavs don't really look like this. You can't judge them. We haven't seen them with Luka, and when he comes back, I mean, I like them in the next series probably if they can get past this one, because they're only going to get better. He's going to play game 4, or game, yeah, he should be playing in game 4, right? I mean, that's what they said. Let me make sure that's true, because then the spread I just don't really get it. Doesn't know if he has the green light for game 4 today. Yesterday, it sounded like he was going to do it. So I guess we're going to have to wait and see what the prognosis is like. But if you're getting this price, +5 on the Mavs with Luka, that I'm in on. But this is a must win for the Jazz, right? It's also weird because I love the Jazz at home historically, but their crowd has just seemed like they're over this team, like they're ready for the breakup. Just like I said, we're moving them into the offseason already. Like, I've heard some booing, and that's not the way I think of the Jazz. It's bizarre. It's weird to watch. But this is their last chance to get it together, right? If you lose this game at home to this Dallas team, with or without Luka, it doesn't really matter. If you lose this game at home, you're not going to win the series. You're going back into Dallas. You're probably, the wheels have fallen off. You're going to get smashed in all likelihood. So if the coach even wants to save his job, and if this team cares about each other at all, which maybe they don't, but if they do, and if they haven't given up yet, this is the only time they have left to prove it. So the hard time I'm having with this is, I already backed the Jazz in the series because I didn't think the Mavs would be able to perform like this without Luka for the first 3 games, maybe 4. And I'll just eat that if that's the case. But I can't bet more on the Jazz because I can't assume that they're going to bring it, and I already have them. But this is a spot where I'll probably lean Mavs for the rest of the series. But again, that's because I have that backing of the Jazz that I would like to hedge. So I don't know how much I'm going to recommend Mavs bets. It depends. We might get to tomorrow, and I like this +5. I definitely like them on an alternate line, getting like, closer to 10. I think that's pretty safe. I actually had that in a parlay yesterday or the day before. So I like that because the Mavs feel safe to compete. And literally, I can't even say that about the Jazz because it looks like they don't want to compete. They don't have the toughness. And they could ratchet it up, but this is prove-it time. So we'll see. We'll do off-season Jazz stuff when we get there. But, man, I don't even know how to begin to tackle that problem. And if we're already talking about that, doesn't that tell you to kind of back the Mavs here a little bit? If Luka plays, I want to see how this line goes. That should balloon the other way. And if he's questionable, maybe you take it early. Just to say, like, hey, it's a gamble, but if we get Luka and we get +5, that's pretty nice. Because if Luka's playing here, this should be 2-point spread. I mean, from what we've seen already, this is a lot of respect for a Jazz team that doesn't look like they really want to be there. So we'll see. Celtics Nets, again, I backed the Nets in this series, but they've looked like just... I'm looking for the right word. I mean, they have not been tough enough. They just haven't. And they rely on two shot makers making shots, which they haven't done. So it's easy to say that they lose these games. I mean, look, they could have won game 1. I don't know if they should have, but they were right there. Game 2, they were leading for a long time. So this feels like the series isn't over at all. Nets haven't even gotten to play at home. I still think there's a world where they play tougher. But now that Rob Williams seems to be inching towards a comeback, I thought the Nets' advantage lied in the games where Rob Williams wasn't going to be there because they could have bullied the Celtics. And the Celtics said, no, we're the bullies. Like, we are going to play way, way tougher. We're going to stifle KD every step of the way. Kyrie's going to get his, and we won't worry about the rest of it. I think the Nets at home might have this game where they just explode for 130 points, regardless of who's defending them. And I think that Celtics crowd was a really big factor in these games, which they're not going to have to their advantage now. And I don't know how big the Nets crowd is going to be. Probably good, I guess. But if you look at the scores late in these series, it was really just, I mean, this one came right down to it, so there's no reason to even look at this one. We know this game was as tight as can be. It was a 7-point win for the Celtics, but late in the fourth, how close did we get? It was 6 here. It was 5 at the 3-minute mark. And it was 2 at the 6-minute mark. So this is where we were. 6 minutes left. It's a 2-point game. And you start to say to yourself, all right, well, KD's going to hit some shots down the stretch. He's been to the free throw line the whole time. Kyrie's not going to play bad this whole time, right? So it wasn't even over then. So people putting dirt on the Nets, I mean, I think, if anything... I still don't feel bad about getting the Nets as an underdog in the series. They're plus 370 to win the series, and that's probably where your value is. Because even in the single game, right, we're looking at, what's the spread for tomorrow? 3. So you're getting them at minus 158 to win tomorrow. I think maybe the team total, if anything, over. But that's tough, too, because the Celtics defense is so good. But the point is, these games have been really close, and I don't know what the spread is giving enough respect to the Nets. I think Vegas realized that if this was 1-1, the spread would probably be right around where it is now, so we can't panic. But I do think that plus 370 to win the series is kind of juicy. I have them at plus 120 to win the series, and I don't even feel terrible about that. If they come back and score big in Game 3, everyone's going to be back on them. And this, to me, is a spot to maybe back the Nets, but more back Durant. We don't see him struggle the way he's struggled ever. And I know that the Celtics are putting good double teams out there. I get it. But I'm trying not to be a prisoner of the moment, seeing the Nets lose 2 of those games and seeing the Celtics have so much success. Tatum blocking Durant's shots. I mean, he's been awesome. Don't get me wrong. Like, if you're backing the Celtics, of course, yes, they've looked great. But Durant does this against double teams. He hits these shots, and they've been getting looks. Not every single possession has been perfect defense from the Celtics, right? There have been moments where you're like, oh, okay, this could have been 2-0 Nets. They had leads both times. They had sizable leads both times. So if KD hits a couple of those pull-up jumpers with someone in his face, which he always does, we're looking at this completely differently. So KD props, I mean, he could score 30 tomorrow. I'll have a long look at that. But I'm not out on the Nets. I'm not. I think people are too far out on the Nets. And that, to me, is a mistake. I think plus 370 to win the series. I don't have it on my card, but I'm telling you, it's worth a little sprinkle. We got to see what Rob Williams does, though, because if he comes back and protects the paint and gives even more toughness and puts them over the top there, then it's really just KD and Kyrie hitting jumpers for the rest of the series. And they got to win 4 out of 5, which is pretty hard to do, but I really like the KD props tomorrow. So at Mike Mush Sports, Twitter, Instagram, that's probably where we're going to be at. And the last one is Grizzlies Timberwolves. I mean, you can't back the T-Wolves anymore. You just can't. That was horrible. Absolutely so ridiculous. I mean, Ja didn't even play well offensively until late in the fourth, and they blew 2 different 20-point leads. That is astonishing. I mean, Minnesota, the Vikings could do it. Timberwolves are young. I mean, this is what's going to happen. Realistically, they probably won a game they shouldn't have and on the road. And, I mean, they deserved it, but you didn't expect them to, at least. And they lost a game where you didn't expect them to lose. So it's kind of where it should be anyway. This Grizzlies -3, Vegas is really assuming that Minnesota is going to implode here. This will be more of a prop game than anything. I already have Memphis to win the series. I do think if you can get... What are the prices on the series now in the West? Yeah, I mean, -800. Plus 110 to win in 5 games. So they just think the wheels have completely fallen off Minnesota. And we're going to find out. We are. That crowd will be hot. And this team is capable offensively. I mean, they could put up 45 in a quarter real quick. But I don't know. I'm undecided on that one. I can't believe what I've seen from them. After they come all the way back and close that gap and build the lead back up after blowing it, to blow it again, I don't know if you can mentally come back from that as a young kid. And without Towns playing well, he has been garbage. I don't even know if we'll see him next year. I mean, this could be it's not quite a Ben Simmons situation, but it's like Rudy Gobert last year, who is playing on his team still, but probably won't be soon enough. Where it's like, this might not be the guy, because mentally he has been broken, and that's weird because Memphis pulled Steven Adams off of the rotation completely, and I figured that he was going to be the one to break Cat because he could out-rebound him and out-tough him. He hasn't even been there, so just lack of anything and missing shots has just broken him mentally. I don't know what that is about, but I do like the Ja bounce back at some point. I like Memphis to win the series still, and we had them from the previous video, so go back and check that out. And if you want to get on Memphis, it's probably time to do it game by game because this -800 is totally ridiculous. So if you buy into the fact that Minnesota is just mentally broken, then this -3 price is probably good, and you can get an alternate line that bumps that even up further, because if they are broken and not focused, and it's not going to happen for some young kids that aren't ready for this moment, and maybe the crowd getting hot makes them actually tighter, then you could take Memphis in a blowout to win here, and I would understand it. And we already talked about Golden State and Denver. So those picks will come at you on the Twitter and the Instagram at Mike Mush Sports. But for now, let's lay out the picks that we have for tonight, Friday night. 9.25 units on the line. I love the Bucks. I'm taking the Bucks money line for 2 units. I can't tell if this is contrarian or not. To me, the public play is probably to go against the Bucks and Suns because of the injuries, right? Everyone's going to be like, oh, they're not going to be the same. They're on the road. Classic spot where they lose. I think both of them bounce back with a chip on their shoulder. So I'm taking Bucks money line for 2 units and Suns money lines for 2 units. And I'm going to believe in the depth more than some people are. And I'm believing in Giannis most of the time for the Bucks side. I'm doing the 0.25 is the little sprinkle for that road team reason I mentioned earlier. Heat, Bucks, Suns, plus 471 for all of them to win. They're all the better team. It's a tiny little sprinkle. I mean, if we lose a quarter of a unit, it's not the end of the world. But I kind of like it at plus 471. We can make up over a unit there if we win it. So road teams, road dogs tonight. Props in the Bucks game. Giannis 25 plus, Giannis 10 plus rebounds, Giannis 1 block, Caruso 1 steal, and Drew 1 steal. Plus 119 for all those things. Doesn't seem like great odds, but those, I mean, can be done in their sleep. If you like Giannis props to get up to 40 tonight, I really like that. I didn't take it, but I went safer because I think he scores definitely 25 plus. I mean, without any problem, he could get that in a half tonight. The 10 rebounds he's going to have to do because he always does. The block, I just think Giannis will be involved a lot more than he normally is. Because he has to make up for the Middleton thing, and he already has a high usage, but I do think it goes up. And then Caruso and Drew are just great on the perimeter and both get a steal. So plus 119 for something that should happen seems good. We mentioned it before. FanDuel, we like the FanDuel book. Giannis 30 plus and Giannis 10 rebounds is up to plus 100 odds just by itself. So tacking a unit onto there, Giannis props are big tonight. I'm also going to take the other side a little bit, which is weird because I've been pushing for the Bulls to be able to compete but not win this game. But I do think they compete. I think they're tough. I think with Caruso back, they have a defensive identity. They can shut down everyone not named Giannis. And while I think the Bucks win the game, I like Bulls plus 10.5 on an alternate line and under 230.5, bumping that up alternate. You get that at minus 139. Parlay of just those two things. Bulls plus 10.5 and the total under 230.5. So basically, I'm just kind of thinking that this is going to be a tight game down the stretch that the Bucks pull out, and I want as much exposure to that as I possibly can get. So I'm taking the other side there on alternate lines. For the Suns, aside from the money line, which we already mentioned, I like a prop of CP3 to get 10 plus assists, combined with CP3 to get a steal, Bridges over 11.5 points, and Cam Johnson to hit at least 2 threes. Plus 114 for all those things. We went really mild on those lines. You could get more aggressive and increase the odds if you like, but I like the CP3 assists, steals. I like Bridges to score more and Cam Johnson to score more. Again, depth play. It's why I'm on the Sens in general, but I like them in that. And if you want to sprinkle in a baseball bet, we have a round robin. 1 unit in total spread. I did them in twos, but you can do the round robin however you like. You can parlay all 4 together if you want to. Yankees money line against the Guardians. Braves money line against the Marlins. Blue Jays money line at the Astros. That's a dog, but I like it. Screw the Astros. No one likes him. I think Blue Jays are getting priced down too far because of the Springer injury, and he's already playing. So I think they're going to be fine. And Mariners money line against the Royals. Those 4 in a round robin. Putting a unit on that. That brings us to 9.5 total. There will be more throughout the weekend, so make sure to follow at Mike Mush Sports on Twitter, on Instagram. Subscribe to the channel. Join the chat for next time. We'll be back with plenty more playoff videos and plenty more playoff action as it unfolds. I can't believe the injuries. 2K, seriously, whoever creates 2K, figure it out for real life. Turn off the injuries. Turn them off for the playoffs. Nobody wants this, but it does make things a little more interesting. And my Suns Bucks bets, man, have them both to make the finals. I still think they can get there if they can get past these injuries. Maybe that's why I'm trying to talk myself into them tonight. Hopefully not. Hopefully we hit. We're up 47.1 units on the year, looking to add some more. We'll see what happens. We'll see you next time. Peace out.